This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
What is up, Spurs Nation? It's your boy Rob, and you're listening to a Bucking Spurs podcast. Media Day is officially in the books, and the real work starts. It's time to get to work, to grind it out. But there's a lot to talk about from Media Day, and we're going to get into more specifically everyone who spoke at the podium. Demar Derozan, then Dejounte came out, Rudy Gay, Derrick White, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Coach Pop. So we're going to talk about what they had to say coming into Media Day, and what, there were some good questions, some not so good questions, but there was a lot to dive into, and I can't wait to get going. So let's just get right into it. All right, drop it like it's hot, babe. So Media Day is here. Let's first get into Demar Derozan, who was on the podium. I really enjoyed Demar Derozan. There's some of these guys that were kind of a snooze up there on the podium, but Demar came in with a lot of excitement. You can just tell that this was a new day for Demar. It's a new year, and he came out and he said that he was excited to be here and excited for this new season, and that now that he knows what to expect and what the expectations are of him and what the Spurs way is all about, he feels more comfortable. So he said the big word for me there is comfortable. Last year it was nervous, he said, and I get that. He was coming in from Toronto. He was coming in from a big trade. He spent his whole, spent 9 years in Toronto and coming all the way south to San Antonio. It was a bit of a culture shock. I think it was a bit of he felt like he had a chip on his shoulder and he had a lot to prove, and he didn't want to be the one that got the crap end of that deal. But I mean, it does suck that Toronto won a championship without him, and that stings a little bit. And they asked him about that, and I guess it's a media question that you have to ask, like as a fan of Spurs Nation and of all these guys. When a question like that gets asked, how do you feel, that these guys won a championship or whatever, blah, blah. It's like, dude, why you gotta ask that, bro? It hurts, whatever. But he handled it well. He talked about he's happy for all his ex-teammates and happy for the city and whatnot, and still says that he still feels like he's a part of the culture there and whatever. And that's all well and good. But I feel like DeMar is ready to head into a brand new season with a brand new mindset, right? Something that he talked about to me is what I've been talking about post NBA free agency, not All-Star break. When all these acquisitions started going down and these new dynamic duos started getting formed, and then the Warriors, KD left and the Clippers became the Clippers. AD went to the Lakers. Conley went to Utah, and Bogdanovich went to Utah as well, right? When all of this movement started happening, there's something that I've been resting my head on, is the fact that we have continuity, and DeMar spoke to that. He goes, something that we have and that we can feel confident about is that we have chemistry, and he spoke about how chemistry is everything, and at the end of the day, that is what takes you far in the playoffs, and he's right. And we have that in spades coming in. Even with a guy like Dejounte, who hasn't played a full season with DeMar, their chemistry is off the court is already so strong, and you can tell that by some of the photos that we got glimpses of from Media Day. And that's a bond that's gonna, I think, carry us, to be honest. DeMar spoke about a training video that that Dejounte sent to him in the summer, right? Dejounte put together like a little highlight reel, film reel, not highlight, but it was film about DeMar and what he was doing this past season for us. And he was telling DeMar, this Dejounte telling DeMar, this is how I'm going to help you. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to work this to make you better. And we're going to talk about Dejounte in a little bit. But to me, that off the court relationship is strong, and that's what's going to carry us. He did mention that he wanted to play for Team USA next year. And of course, all the players are coming out and saying, yeah, it's a little disappointing, how it went down this year. But, next year I want to be out there. I want to play. Well, hopefully we get a good amount of guys come out and try to make the team. Who knows if DeMar makes the team or not. I don't have, if I have, a couple episodes, I did my fantasy Olympic team next year and DeMar wasn't on it. But if he is, that's fantastic. I'm not going to get mad at that. They asked him about his contract, because he has an extension that still hasn't gotten picked up, and then he has his player option for next year. And he said that, he's going to let management do their thing. He wasn't going to worry about that. And he spent, his off season a lot of time in Wyoming, which is weird, right? And he even said it himself. He's like, that's kind of weird, right? Because he's a Cali kid or whatever, and he went out to the hill country, to the country. You know what I mean? He was fly fishing and doing all these things. But hey, man, that's the NBA lifestyle. If I was an NBA player and I had all this money in the summers, I'd be doing the same thing. Like you saw LaMarcus Aldridge just like on a boat in Rome or something, just the whole time, just getting away from everything. So I don't blame him for that, and I'm glad that he got to detox, himself and kind of he called it a life-changing experience. So I'm happy for him that he got to get that clarity. They asked him if he was going to shoot some threes this summer and this season, and if he's been working on it. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I plan on shooting. I'm gonna shoot some. He was real candid about it. I'm gonna shoot some. LaMarcus Aldridge was just like, well, that's what y'all want to know, right? All right, well, I'm not gonna tell y'all. Like, LaMarcus Aldridge is just kind of like a dick in this media day. But anyways, we'll get into him in a little while. Something else that he talked about, and Pop talked about it too a little bit later in some different words, but they asked him about this season, and he just said, you know what, defense is the priority. It's like, we can score with the best of them. Scoring is not an issue. He's like, any team nowadays can score 100, 110 points a game, no problem. He's like, but he talked about when we would hold teams to under 100 points, that's ultimately where we were most successful, and we just weren't able to do that at a high clip last year at all, and so he's saying defense is the priority, and that's coming from DeMar, our best scorer, probably our best scorer, right? I mean, he's the most crafty with the ball. He scored 21 points a game. He leads us in that area on the offense, but to see him come in and just know that defense is the priority, to me, that's exciting. To me, that tells me where his head's at, and he's ready to go, and he's ready to grind it out on the defensive end. All right, let's get into Dejounte Murray. And he was honestly, if anyone stole the day at Media Day, who won Media Day from the Spurs players, it was definitely Dejounte. Dejounte came out, we're going to talk about what he said, but you can see him playing around with DeMar in the background of some videos and some pictures. And he's there to really bring this team together. I feel like that's his number one goal, is to bring this team and take this team to another level. And I'm not talking about on the court. I'm talking about like off the court, like bringing players together, bring these minds together, and really work on the harmony of this team. He wants to make everyone's job easier. That was a quote that he said. He said him and Pop talk about it a lot, being a player that other players want to play with. And that's a leader right there. I've been saying it all the time. I've been saying it for, a year now. I said it last season when unfortunately we didn't get to see it, but I think his leadership skills and his leadership ability is going to be so valuable to what we try to do throughout this 82 game season. He's not scared. He's not scared right now. That was another question. Is like, how's the knee feeling? How confident are you? He's like, oh, I'm good. He's like, I'm not even worried about that. He's like, the way I play, I play without fear. And, so he can't be worrying about his knee and that's going to hold him back if he still has that on his mind. And I believe him too, because, he's taken a whole year off, and for an ACL injury, I think that's perfect. I think that, he's strengthening it up. He's been training. He's been doing 5-on-5. He's been doing full contact stuff. So he's ready to go. I think he's already tested out his knee, and he feels comfortable with the strength that he has in it and the mobility that he has in that knee. something he said that we've got a lot of dogs with chips on their shoulders, and that's something that some of these other guys were talking about too. And he believes in this team. I think Dejounte really believes in what this team's got and the players and the skills. And he said, you know, there was one thing that he said about when they asked him about the other teams in the Western Conference that came together. He said, I don't care about those teams. He's like, I play for San Antonio, you know, and I'm here to do whatever San Antonio needs me to get done. So that's why you got to ride for this kid, because he's riding or dying for the city and for the Spurs on his chest. Like he's not focused on anything else besides winning right now. And I'm not surprised. You know, that's just the type of guy that he is. He wants to make the team better on the defensive end, but not just by putting himself on the court. He wants to make everyone better. His goal said, you know, yeah, like he wants to get back to that, you know, all NBA level caliber defender. But his main objective is to bring the team with him and to have, you know, a solid defensive team and do that by communicating and by hustling and doing everything that he does leadership wise. A leader has that mentality. And I'm so excited to see what he has in store for us. They asked him if he wanted to start. He said, you know, they asked everyone about their roles, and all the players had the same answer. I'm going to do whatever Coach Pop wants us to do. And ultimately, you know, Coach Pop is going to put us in the best position to be successful, and we're going to trust that. And it's a perfect answer, even though we know we want to see Dejounte in the starting lineup. I mean, Coach Pop did say that he's going to have not really a minute restriction, but they're going to monitor him, and they're not going to load him up with a big role minutes-wise right out the gates, which is smart. So, if anybody won Media Day, it's definitely Dejounte Murray. So happy that he's back. He brings like a level of confidence to, I think, us as Spurs Nation that we can have going into the season, that we're going to be better, than next year. And that's strictly just by Dejounte's mindset, not even what he's going to bring on the court. All right, we're going to take a little break to hear from our Big Heads Media Podcast Network brother and sister pods, and we'll be right back to talk about Rudy Gay and Derrick White.
Meow Mix, a Carolina Panthers podcast for fans, by fans. Listen every week as we break down and preview games, discuss NFL news, and generally nerd out about the Carolina Panthers.
You can find Meow Mix on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all other major podcast outlets.
Keep pounding.
Rudy Gay, we're going to keep this one short. He really didn't have a lot to say. I think what I took most from Rudy Gay is that he's excited to be back and that he let management take care of his contract. And I think that as a veteran, he understands that, you know, that's out of his hands. And so he didn't put too much stake into it this summer, but he's very glad that he's coming back to San Antonio and that he felt like himself again last season. It was like mid-season last season where he actually felt like he was old Rudy Gay and he was contributing to the team. I think his first year with us, it was like a big experiment on what exactly was going to happen with Rudy Gay. But then after that, he's really gotten it together. I think last year he had one of the best years he had, and he's ready to build on that. So that's positive moving forward. He talked about DeMar Carroll and said that he can be the glue guy for the team, and he can be the guy that really brings everyone together in the locker room and on the court both. You know, so, you know, we got veteran savvy players now, and I think Rudy Gay is excited about the team that we have, and he's ready to develop, you know, and to grind out with the squad. And he mentioned that he's excited about Lonnie Walker. He said that he's taken a lot of strides and that he's going to be an asset to the team. And so I'm just excited for Rudy Gay to be back in the business. He talked about his off-season stuff. They jumped into his hobbies and that he was really excited to just get away from basketball, and he focused a lot about on fashion and whatnot, and he had that runway experience too. So I mean, Rudy Gay is a good-looking guy. You know, if he can style it up with the best of them. So he's a good-looking cat. Okay, so now let's talk about Derrick White, who was next up on the podium. Derrick White got a lot of USA basketball questions and his experience, and he was basically just so appreciative for the experience, and that he learned a lot, from the coaching staff that was there, from the players that he was playing with, and that he enjoyed every second of it. He was ready to go once it was over. He came home, said he rested for about 3 days, because of jet lag. It's a long flight from China, right? So he spent some time recovering there, but after that, he's been in the gym, and now he's in the Spurs gym. Now he's getting ready to go there, and I'm recording this the day after Media Day, and so they're already going at it. They're practicing, and I can't wait to hear about the stories of Derrick White and how much USA basketball helped him out. He did mention that he is excited to have Dejounte Murray back, and that he was so used to playing against Dejounte in practice, because last year that was the case. At this point of the season last year, training camp starting and preseason, his job was to push Dejounte and to lead the second team to be as good as they can be. And that they're fiddling around with lineups in practice, and for the first time he said, for them two to be on the same team, their goal is to be the best defensive backcourt in the NBA, when they're on the floor together. I mean, he didn't say that they're gonna start together, because nobody knows, but he's excited to be back, and I can't wait to have Derrick show all the improvements that he learned this offseason and take it into the upcoming season. His Media Day interview was pretty short. He looked a little bit silly though. I don't know if y'all if you guys saw it. It looked like his jersey was a little bit too big or something. I don't know. He just looked a little weird. I don't know what it was. His hair, I don't know what. All right, so we're going to take our last break to hear from our brother and sister podcast from Big Heads Media Podcast Network, and then we're going to get back to talk about LaMarcus Aldridge and Greg Popovich, our Capitan. All right, so we'll be right back.
Hey everyone, it's Cameron and Kyle from the Missouri Sports Podcast, inviting you to listen to our show where we discuss everything Missouri Tigers.
Join us for in-depth game previews and breakdowns, recruiting insights, and reactions to important news, with a few other antics and shenanigans along the way.
You can listen to us on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, and follow us on Twitter at Mizzou Sports Pod.
Love you, bye.
LaMarcus Aldridge at the podium, man, it's so hard to get a read on him. I think that he came into this media day just like any other media day. To be honest, it didn't seem like he was excited. Didn't seem like he wanted to give out any information that he didn't have to. All the questions that he asked, that he got asked, to be honest, were quite annoying. So I kind of understand it from his point of view. It seemed like they were asking him, hey, like you're old now and you're the veteran, and can you still play, and is this NBA still built for you? And he was just like, why y'all keep asking these questions like if I'm old? You know what I mean? Like, because he's not. And Greg Popovich talked about it too when they asked about him. He's like, he played 81 games for us last year, or 82 games for us last year. Like, that's enough said about can LaMarcus still play? And those are stupid questions, man. Like, come on, man. Like, he was our leading scorer. He was our anchor the whole season. I don't know why we're so hard on this guy, but he did mention Portland a couple of times in his interview, and he talked about being ready to go. And he's like, they're like, LaMarcus, are you gonna shoot any more threes this year, and are you gonna shoot more threes this year? And he goes, well, that's the question you guys all want to know, right? And well, I mean, the answer is gonna be no. I feel like he said he didn't want to answer, so he wasn't having it. I feel like he wasn't having it there. So I think he wants to come in and do his job, and that's it. He doesn't want to deal with the media. He doesn't want to give us any information that he doesn't have to, and he's just there to do his job. And that's the vibe I got from LaMarcus. And again, I mean, that's the same vibe I feel like. I feel like he's ready to play for the Spurs. He wants to finish his contract with the Spurs, but then after that, I don't think he's going to have any loyalty handcuffs to us. I don't think he's going to feel like he owes us anything, because he doesn't. And I think he's going to take free agency as it comes. I wouldn't be surprised if he leaves, because it doesn't seem like he's really all that happy to be here. When they asked about some of these young guys coming in, or they asked about Demar Derozan, And they were like, oh, do you think, you can expect him to have a better second year than his first year because that's the norm? And he goes, well, my second year wasn't all that great, because it wasn't. That was the year where I was like, man, he wanted to leave after his second year. But to like mention it like that, you know what I mean? Like, oh, my second year wasn't good. Like he just seems a little bit bitter. Like, I don't know what it is, and I don't know if he feels. I know on the court, he's doing everything the right way. I think he's leading our team on the court, and I feel like he doesn't want to do anything in particular off of it that's real Spursy, or he's not gonna try to say like, yeah, I'm gonna be a Spur for life, I want to stay here, and like you don't get that vibe. But I think I do get the vibe that he wants to do everything in his power to win this season, and I'll take that. I'll take that this year, and I'll take that next year. Well, we'll see what happens next year. We can waive him. It's non-guaranteed and blah, blah, blah. We can get, so we'll see how all this plays out. But hopefully I believe that his mindset is where it should be, and he's going to be ready to go once the season starts. Coach Pop was classic. He was in mid-season form at the media day yesterday, joking around with the media personnel, giving them a hard time for the stupid questions, just giving those looks that are like, are you serious? You're gonna ask me that? Come on, man. Like, come on already. And so Pop did talk about a few things that were interesting. Like I mentioned before, Dejounte, he was very high on Dejounte. He said he looks fast as hell. He said that Dejounte looks like right now that he looks like he has so much speed under him, and is one of the fastest guys that he's seen in 3 to 5 years. He said that. He's like, I haven't seen anyone that fast in maybe 3 or 5 years. He goes, the only other guy that's that fast might be Lonnie. He's like, well, we're gonna test that out, like they're gonna see how that goes. And so that was exciting to hear that Lonnie Walker is got that speed and that juice just as much as Dejounte have. They got those young legs. And he talks about that they're not going to overload his minutes. I mentioned that earlier. So he's excited for Dejounte to be back. He's excited to have everyone back. He did talk about, the one thing I do want to talk about was, because he talked about USA basketball and all that stuff, but we've talked about that already, and I think I'm on the same page as where his mindset is that he's like, man, like he's so proud of our guys, and our guys shouldn't be getting as much slack from the media as they're getting, and that's disrespectful to the other teams. And it's true, man. Like, those other teams had continuity. They've been playing together forever, and it was tough. And so, he had a little bit about to say about that. But what I want to talk about is they asked him about Marcus Morris, and he felt like they were blindsided by that decision. He said that it was a tremendous loss to lose Davis, that they moved Davis so they can bring in Marcus Morris. And we all know this, but Pop had a little bit of anger. He had a little bit of like resentment. You can tell that he didn't want to let him go, but he felt like Marcus Morris was going to be a better play for what we're trying to do now. And he mentioned that Davis had been getting better every year, and that he was a heck of a player, and he was still so young. And that's my thing. It's like we've spent so much time developing Davis. I mean, we've had his right since 2011. I mean, he played with us for what, 3-4 seasons, but we had been working on him forever. We'd been developing him overseas. We had been bringing him over during summer league. And so when you put all that effort into something and have it to let it go, and then have it to be taken away the way it did, and like, that was unfortunate, because we still could have had Davis, and you could tell that he was a little bit resentful about how that all shaked down. But he was excited about this season. I think we're all excited. He talked a little bit about Tim Duncan, being on the bench, and he mentioned something about Tim Duncan that was very telling, that confirms me and what my thoughts are. I've always said that I don't see Tim Duncan being a head coach. I don't even see him coaching beyond Pop. I did an interview on another podcast the other day, and I mentioned that, I don't think Tim Duncan is going to be our next head coach. I think that I honestly can see him riding off in the sunset as long as Pop does. And Pop mentioned this. He says, that's not something that, coaching is not something that he sees Tim Duncan, doing for life or trying to be a head coach or whatever. He's just going to have fun and do it while he wants to. He wants to coach this year, great. Who knows if he even wants to coach next year? But he was excited and thinking that, he's going to do great things for us. And so we're excited about all that. All right, so that was none of the basic takes from Media Day. Not too much here. We'll start seeing more. Hey, man, we got about 4 days until we see our first preseason game. That's going to be the huge one right there. We're going to get to see a starting lineup. I can't wait to start seeing the practice videos that are the post interviews and practice that should be coming out soon. We can get all into all that, Spurs Nation. Media Day was good. It was fun. I'm glad to see everybody back. Everyone seems motivated. LaMarcus Aldridge was kind of like a snooze button the whole time. But you know what? LaMarcus Aldridge, you know what we're going to get. And LaMarcus was like, I'm going to be same old LaMarcus. I didn't add anything to my game. He's like, I'm going to do what I do. And you know what? I'll take that. I'm all on board with that. Demar Derozan looked pumped to be there. Rudy Gay seemed happy that he's back. Dejounte Murray has something out to prove. And he has that fire in him still. And that leadership is gonna be crucial. Derrick White's gonna show us what he's been working on all summer and how Team USA has elevated his game. And LaMarcus Aldridge is gonna be there. Coach Pop is gonna do his thing. So exciting, great things in front of us, Spurs Nation. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for checking out the podcast. BuckingSpurs.com is almost finished. It's almost finished. So be tuned in for that. Follow me on YouTube. YouTube's been going great. I don't know why I didn't do YouTube before. Spurs content, a lot of Spurs content coming your way. Make sure to let Spurs Nation know. If you know anybody in Spurs Nation, another guy, another fella, another gal out there that rides or die for that silver and black, let's go, baby. Make sure to share the content, share the love, and it's going to be a great year. Go Spurs, go.